Okay. Let's call the regular regional council meeting for February the 10th to order, please. We want to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on traditional territory of our friends, neighbors, and Treaty 8 partners. We recognize the rights provided in our treaty, and we also celebrate the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Are there any council additions to tonight's agenda? Staff?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on tonight's agenda? Online? In the room? No? Okay, thank you. Can I have adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. There are four sets of minutes. The committee of the whole meeting from January 24th, the committee of the whole meeting from January 27th, regional council from January 27th, and the special regional council from January 27th for adoption, please. Moved by Councillor Enoch, second by Councillor Andrews. Are there any errors or omissions for any of those minutes? Staff? No? Seeing none, all in favor of adoption? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, it is my pleasure to make two proclamations tonight. The first proclamation is for Heritage Week, and I'll read the proclamation now. Whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality celebrates a rich history that is manifest in its museum, public library, historic sites, cultural landscapes, and whereas these assets are a source of invaluable information about the history of our community and stories about them provide a vital legacy to guide and nurture future generations. And whereas stories about the past strengthen our community's unique identity and foster a sense of place. And whereas Heritage Week begins on National Heritage Day, the third Monday of February. And whereas communities throughout BC mark Heritage Week to celebrate their unique history and heritage. And whereas this year's theme is Pastimes in Past Times, and you are invited to dig deeper into your community's past and explore the many stories that your unique community holds. And whereas the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality values and wishes to conserve its rich and diverse heritage resources. Now, therefore, I, Rob Fraser, Mayor of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, do hereby proclaim the week of February 17th to 23rd, 2025 as Heritage Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. And I would encourage everybody to get out and get to the museum or any of the local heritage sites during that week. I think it's open on the weekend. Perfect. Thank you. I am very happy to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can actually do a joint thing. We're just gonna get them to do both.
Okay.
We just-
Oh, is that what you'd like?
We can, I'm gonna change it up a bit for you.
We'll allow it.
Is there anybody who'd like to move and second that? All right. It is also my pleasure to make a proclamation with respect to Chamber of Commerce Week from February 10th to 14th, 2025. So I'll read it. Whereas the Fort Nelson and District Chamber of Commerce is a business organization dedicated to strengthening the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality business community, and whereas chambers leverage platforms and tools to ask questions, encourage conversation, spark discussion, and action those insights to further community development. And whereas chambers support and advocate for policy development based on innovative ideas, on ground experience, and using evidence-based data. And whereas a strong local business community is a key driver of our local economic prosperity, creating jobs and opportunities for residents of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. And whereas every year, members of the Fort Nelson and District Chamber of Commerce dedicate countless volunteer hours in service to our local businesses and community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rob Fraser, do hereby proclaim the week of February 10th to 14th, 2025 as Chamber of Commerce Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. And now the moment you've all been waiting for.
I was just gonna say that you stole the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, get in cold.
Is that being recorded?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And live stream.
And live stream.
Are they not sticking around? Oh, good. Okay, that brings us to reports, bylaws and policies. Report number 0825, read the grant application to UBCM's Community Resiliency Investment Program 2025. I think we have staff here. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks, Mayor, Regional Council. Thanks for having me tonight. So this report here is for a grant application to the CRI, Community Resiliency Investment Program. There was a bit of a change over the last couple of years where in order to secure future funding for such things as fuel mitigation or fire prescriptions, the community had to develop the 3 foundations as detailed in the report. One of them is a fire smart position, which is now, that condition has been met. The requirement for a committee that has now been met. And the 3rd foundation is the Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan, which is in the grant application this time around. So this application is really geared towards the CWRP, Fire Smart Education, sending some folks to the training summit in Penticton, and some home ignition zone assessments later this spring and into summer.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Are there any questions for Mr. Cavalier? That's pretty straightforward. I think we've all been expecting this to come across the council's desk. So what are your wishes? Council Andrews?
I'd like to make the motion that a grant application be submitted to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Community Resiliency Investment Program to fund 100% of the costs, up to 200,000 to complete fire smart education, home ignition zone assessments, and a community wildfire resiliency plan, and fund up to 50% of the fire smart coordinator position and up to 15% of the fire prevention officer position.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councilor Roper, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're still on.
Yep.
The next report is report number 9. No, is that right? Report number 9. Thank you. So on the Fire Smart Resiliency Committee recommendations, please, Terry.
So as outlined in the TOR, as recommendations are made at the committee level, they'd be forwarded to council for action or review. So one of them is to appoint Floyd Bertrand as a member of the Fire Smart Committee. The committee reviewed his application and is now just looking for council approval on that one.
Okay.
And then the committee would like a letter sent to BC Hydro requesting their attendance at a community fire smart committee meeting to ask for their assistance with fuel mitigation efforts within Fort Nelson.
Thank you. So with respect to the first one's pretty straightforward with respect to Floyd's application. The second one, the committee has the ability to ask BC Hydro to have somebody come, but you know, with the discussion that they had at the last meeting, I felt they weren't just looking for the foreman of the crew that's doing the work in town, right? They're looking for an executive member or at least some significant manager who can speak to some of these questions and comments and you know, I felt it would probably be better if this letter came, and I think the committee agreed with it, that if the letter came from the council in conjunction with the committee to BC Hydro to try to get a senior representative out to the meeting. I mean, I think they want to hold, to some degree, hold BC Hydro's feet to the fire a little bit, even though we did it ourselves at UBCM. You know, we had a meeting with a vice president there with respect to the right of ways and the work and potentially getting local contractors to do some of the work. There's all kinds of issues around that. But I think the committee would like to hear for themselves the answers that we got from BC Hydro, and maybe BC Hydro has thought differently since the fires last year. Ours was early, right? There were others that I'm sure that they've talked about how they're going to try to make their entire system fire smart and or not. So I just wanted to add that in there. The committee does have the ability to, but they're looking for that higher level person. So did you have anything else to add, Terry?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, a couple of things in the terms of reference that we're going to be
For next, yeah,
for the next meeting. that will
there's
be-
4 or 5 things in the
Yeah.
next meeting at the end of February.
Yeah,
We'll-
we've been working on those things, and there was, again, as usual, and I think if you're really interested in what that committee's doing, not all the action items get into the minutes, it seems. But we do have a running action item list, right? So if you're
Yeah.
ever interested, you can talk to Terry about what that running action item list is, and it may or may not be apparent in the minutes which action items are being captured, but yeah.
I wonder if, and I'll get some advice from the senior staff here about maybe addressing that in a better fashion.
Yeah.
For council to be able to see those action items as opposed to having to ask me. It should be
Yeah,
something we should be able to provide fairly easily. So
yeah, the committee
I'll
can
talk
see them
to-
easy because you speak to them every meeting, but the council might not see
Yeah.
them, right?
I'll speak to senior staff this week and we'll sort that out.
Good.
Thanks. Thanks. for your
Okay,
input.
so there are 2 recommendations there. I think we can do them both in one resolution. Councilor Andrews?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that Floyd Bertrand be appointed as a member of the Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Committee, and that a letter be sent to BC Hydro requesting their attendance at a Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Committee meeting to ask to ask their assistance with fuel mitigation efforts within Fort Nelson.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Andrews. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Roper, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion or question? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
8.3, 8.3 on the agenda, report number 10 is the food cycler carbon refill and low income expansion option for discussion. Mitch, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the report in front of you for discussion is just a follow-up to the food cycler conversation around carbon refill options. And in addition, there was a meeting, I went to an EAC meeting and just to get some feedback, and the EAC was against essentially subsidizing the units further. However, it was brought up that a low income subsidy would be potentially, they'd be open to that. So this report is essentially into 2 pieces. Here's the carbon refill, is kind of outlines the steps that we've taken to get the carbon units into our community at the very least. It outlines several options that allow for the community to potentially purchase them at a lower cost, as well as the potential challenges. It just highlights really high level that there are a lot more logistical staff time, different costs associated with that as well. So should council entertain any of those options, just to be aware of those potential challenges. And then the second piece there, the low income, is just that can be built, so this can already be built into the existing budget. The reason there is a range of numbers is just because we don't know how much shipping is going to cost. So once we get those final numbers from Food Cycle Sciences, that's when we would be able to allocate, X many dollars to give off a food cycler unit.
Good. Okay, well, thanks, Mitch, for that. Are there any comment? I'm interested in yours.
I don't think I want us to be competing with local retailers if local business is actually gonna take this on and sell it at an affordable price. Then I think that would be the best way to move forward with it. I really like the idea of using the leisure access program to subsidize 10 to 15 low-income households if they are so interested in proceeding. But again, it's the filters and the carbon that is cost prohibitive for some people. So I'm thinking that if you are like that might be cost prohibitive for those users as well. So
So you indicate that there are some private retail outlets that are interested. And are they committed or are they just interested?
Yeah, so I actually got confirmation today that Down to Earth got their shipment. So they are carrying it. And so there's been a couple other retailers too that we've just connected with Food Cycle and cut us out as the middleman. So they're in conversations wherever that may be, but Down to Earth is providing them right now.
Okay, so we have retail outlets that are gonna do that already. So it puts, I thought there might be an opportunity for our not-for-profits to potentially, make a few dollars and look at this. But if we've got businesses that are prepared to do this in the community, then I agree that that's probably the way it should go. With respect to the low-income houses support, that's for the entire, that's for the whole unit, right? That's what we're looking for there.
Correct.
And so are we looking to make a decision on that, or we're just waiting for you to come back?
So
Is it-
it's just, I just noted that it can be included in the original budget. So
Okay.
it's more of just seeing if there's support for it at the table. And if there is, we can go ahead with it. If not, we just won't do it.
can I go-
Council around the table? Oh, go
do
ahead.
you know how many are spoken for? Like, I don't know if the uptake this time is going to be as heavy as it was the first time.
I'm not too sure on the number. That's a follow-up I have for tomorrow, actually. So
Okay, I think before I would want to make that decision, I would like to see what the uptake is on units this time.
Because you're thinking there might be some people that I'm wondering why that would make a difference as to whether or not the low income people would participate, the 10 families. Is it because there's a bunch left over?
Yeah.
That didn't get used? Is that?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that if all of them don't get spoken for, then we might be discounting more than just
I see.
households that are of a lower income.
I gotcha. Just to see if more of them will, in order to be able to get more of them out the door.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I understand. So then the last step was a call for people who are interested in them, right? That's basically they were calling staff you and you were putting them on a waiting list until they showed up here.
yeah, so we had the waiting list and now we've got them for like pre-sale. So if you go on the Perfect Mind website at the rec center there, you can actually purchase them at the front counter, call in, or on the website.
Okay.
And that reserves your spot. So I don't know how many have signed up so far, but that went live last Tuesday,
And when are we expecting them to show up?
April.
April. And when's your last day?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Oh, so yeah, I guess there's no cutoff day, obviously.
no.
They're coming. You have so many coming and there's no cutoff day till April.
Correct.
Okay, so when do we want to know? When he's got,
Well, I'm thinking that we are going to have to do a bit of work in advertising that these units are for sale and, the benefits of and coming up to bear season, why it's so valuable again to do it. The schools, like Hillary has been in all of the elementary schools and has really garnered a lot of interest in the vermicomposting project. So maybe something like that with the food cycler. I think she did bring her food cycler. So anyways, it's garnering interest for sure. We have a high school student that is really promoting them or at least promoting the vermicompost project in the high school. Yeah, but I think that we have some work to do in getting like public service announcements out there to get people all fired up and ready to participate again.
so why don't you come back with another report, the first meeting in April? We'll have a good idea then, eh? The uptake, probably. Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
8.4 on the agenda is the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 233 for adoption. Moved by Counselor Souls for adoption, second by Counselor Andrews. Is there any discussion on the anticipated boring bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you. That brings us to correspondence. There is one item for discussion, which is an email from Aaron Powers, Healthy Communities Lead. Re an in-person visit to Fort Nelson. Can I have somebody put that on the floor, please? Moved by Counselor Andrews, second by Counselor Going. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So it's open for discussion. Anybody have anything to say? So essentially what they're asking for us to do, I guess, is participate in, they're gonna host it, they're gonna put it in town. For us, it's the same week, staff has informed me it's the same week that we're doing our budgeting. So, I don't recall reading it well enough to know if they were gonna do it in the evening or not. That's,
They don't say.
They don't say.
March 11th and March 13th.
Between those.
So
Or-
suggested in-person meeting dates. So I thought March 13th would be a better bet because that's the last of the 4 days that we have tentatively booked off. So if we don't need all 4 days, then that the 13th might be a better time. And then our budget meeting is tentatively scheduled for 12 to 3, so maybe we could meet either before or after, or I don't really know how everybody's date is.
yeah. I sense they were trying to open it up to as many partners and like it's not just us, it's as many others that might want to be involved as well. That was my sense of it. But
I think this specific invitation is for staff and council of the municipality, but
Okay.
you will be having within those date ranges, she'll be meeting with other organizations.
okay,
as well.
okay, then I just confused that in my own mind. Okay, so am I hearing then that sometime on the 13th is what we want to respond with? How many of us can attend? I won't be here in town.
I'm available.
Yeah, 2, 3, so, yeah, okay. So we'll respond back to them then saying that council is interested. Staff obviously will need to figure out how many of you are able. But that the 13th is a day that we're, okay, good. That brings us to 9.2, which is a correspondence for information, and I believe there is one piece of correspondence that Councillor Grooming would like to bring out of there. So if you'd like to make a resolution to do that, Councillor Grooming, to speak about item 9.3.
Yeah, I'd like to move that to where we can have a discussion about the letter from Jan Simpson, National President of CUPW.
Okay, moved by Councillor Grooming. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Enox. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of putting that on the floor? Opposed? Good. Floor is open.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that everybody read it. And there is a resolution they would like us to consider on page 45 of our packages. The mayor has made some revisions to the resolution. So I think it's really, really important that Canada Post hear from rural and remote communities. As I was mentioning before, you know, during the postal strike, my sister in Winnipeg, it was like a non-issue for her. My son and daughter-in-law in Prince George, they, you know, the private companies just took over, like but to us, it made a huge difference. And so I really think it's important that we lend our voice to ensuring that Canada Post has an open and fair consultation process with rural and remote Canada.
And I didn't read it with as a critical eye as Councillor Goering did until she asked me. And so I read it and I agree, well, on the break, and I agree with her that we should at least be putting the point across that for our community, postal service is extremely important. And so I went through the resolution, the suggested resolution, and I read it with the perspective from our perspective. I mean, it's standard. We could have signed it and put our name in it, but I wanted to sort of ferret out well, actually identify our needs out of that as opposed to maybe the bigger needs with respect to the entire country and the union. So I'll read the resolution and into the record just so that staff, when they go ahead to put it together, it will have been read and because it's basically tore it apart. So Canada Post and Industrial Inquiry Commission, whereas the Federal Minister of Labor, Stephen McKinnon, created the Industrial Inquiry Commission under Section 108 of the Canada Labor Code, led by William Kaplan, that will work with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers and the Canada Post to examine the future of the public post office, including possible changes to the Canadian Postal Service Charter. And whereas Canada Post is first and foremost a public service, and whereas while there is room for written input, the commission process is not equivalent to a full and thorough public service review of Canada Post's mandate, allowing for all stakeholder input. And whereas it will be crucial for the commission to hear community views on key issues, including maintaining Canada Post as a public service, improving delivery to rural, remote, Indigenous communities, and developing services to assist people with disabilities and help older Canadians to remain in their homes as long as possible. And at the same time, helping to ensure Canada Post's financial self-sustainability. Therefore, be it resolved that the NRRM will provide input to the commission in the form of a written submission. Also, therefore, be it resolved that the NRRM will write the Federal Minister of Labor, Stephen McKinnon, and the Federal Minister of Public Services and Procurement Canada, Jean-Yves Duclos, who is responsible for Canada Post, to demand that no changes be made to the Canada Post Corporation Act, Canada Post mandate, or the Canadian Postal Service Charter without a full, thorough public review of Canada Post, including public hearings with all key stakeholders in every region of Canada. So that's my suggested resolution, I guess. Is there any questions or comments that anybody might have about sending that in? The letter I think that we should write to the commission would be one of how important it is for Canada, that Canada Post is in our community for communication and the ability for people businesses to interact with the world, being a remote community that we are. So that's sort of my suggestion. Councillor Sol.
I
please.
appreciate your suggestion. I think that this is, this is a good report overall, and you can tell it's coming from the union and it wants to ensure that there's a future for Canada Post and the Canada Post Charter they don't want to see it changed without having a really wholesome conversation around Canada to make that happen. I think that's valuable because it's helpful to note that Purolator is actually owned by Canada Post. And so this is an interesting business. This is not really, doesn't show up in this report. So Canada Post has this corporation that it owns. So is that part of the Canada Post Act? I think the fact that, the fact that that exists tells me that I don't know enough about Canada Post overall to know, but it's fascinating to just think outside the box for a minute and realize that while you have a postal strike, you can ramp up your for-profit business that's running beside it. And I thought that, I think that part of what took place, whether on purpose or not, during that last strike was an experiment to gather data as to how well freight moved and how much extra freight moved through Purolator when the mail service itself was held back, right? So I think that this is why I like the changes you've made in that, but I like seeing that you maintain the need to have a conversation, a Canada-wide conversation, because as much as Canada Post is really important to us, it's the only government service center of any form in lots of our far northern communities. And I think that they should have a voice as well in any changes that go on regarding the post office. So I'm good with that.
Thank you. Anybody else? A mover for that. Moved by Councillor Going, second by Councillor Anders. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I know I didn't pull this one out for discussion, but 9.7, the NRM letter to the Honorable Josie Osborne, Minister of Health. I just wanted to offer my compliments. What a great letter. It was so well written and how all the themes were threaded in that letter. Like, congratulations to the author of that letter. It was fantastic. So thanks.
Thanks. Praise to staff. Great job. as usual. So that leaves, let me just count the rest of them up here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items of correspondence to receive for information. Moved by Counselor Enoch, second by Counselor Gerwing. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. There are no new business items. Are there any counselor reports? Counselor Enoch.
February 30th and 31st, I spent some time in Port St. John with the Joy River First Nation at their World Cafe. And it was focused around their land use plan, including a tribal park, which I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to try to pretend. It was a great couple days. They've really, thought of almost everything with their land use. They've worked incredibly hard for almost decades now, so it's becoming reality. I missed Chief Trevor, as his father actually had a fall and ended up in the hospital, but I'll see him next time. So the museum, we had a museum meeting on February 6th. Heritage Days was just proclaimed, but we're going to be cooking bannock in the Trapper's Cabin February 22nd and 23rd, 1 to 4. Both days, live entertainment, bake sale, 50 draw, raffles, and you can come in for a tour of the museum. The museum is still open on weekends, Saturday 12 to 5 and Sunday 12 to 4. And that's it.
Good, thank you. Counselor Going.
Yeah, January 28th, I attended the Lamplighters Board meeting. January 31st, attended the NCLGA Mental Health and Addiction Steering Committee organizing the next symposium. That date will be pending, but it is pending, but it'll be in the fall. February 4th, attended the BC Rural Health Network Executive Meeting and then the Grace Manor Board meeting. And on February 7th, I met with our communications contractor to discuss all things communication. I look forward to the council's workshop and listening to all your thoughts on an updated communication strategy for the NRM. Good for me.
Thank you. Anybody else? Counselor Andrews?
Not much of a report, but there's been a lot of community members traveling south as of late, hockey and all that kind of different stuff. I've had a lot of reports and appreciation on how well our roads are maintained in the winter and how well our rec center is maintained. And people can't believe how old it is and how well it still looks.
Because they're the direct comparison for the communities that they're actually at.
Yeah,
they're
and that,
visiting.
yeah, comparisons from
Yeah.
the
Good.
communities in the north that our members are, comparing to.
So maybe staff can pass that along to the recreation staff and the public works staff. Absolutely will. Okay, thank you. I only have 2 things to report out. One is the meeting, the Fire Smart Resiliency Committee meeting that we had on the 30th. A lot of good discussion. Those folks are really, hell bound on helping us protect this community. And so please read the minutes, because I think there's some really, really good stuff, and they've got some really good ideas moving forward. There's people they want to speak to. They want to educate themselves. They really want to prioritize some of the fuel mitigation projects around the community. They're looking at, interacting with the First Nation, the community forest, seeing if there are any sort of bare spots that are left between them where they might be able to actually do, and the fire department, because the fire department's also doing some fuel mitigation burning this summer. So yeah, it's a really good committee as far as a lot of conversation goes. So I look forward to every time I sit with those people. And I also sat with Julie Rogers this afternoon to talk about sort of my thoughts from communication. And I too am I won't be here, but I'll certainly participate in the group discussion she intends to have with the entire council around communication. 3 levels, I think, of communication. There's a communication between us as a council. There's communication between the council and our staff, and then the communication between all of us as a government and the public that we represent. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this strategy that she puts forward, and she's just from talking to her, she's putting a lot of thought into what we might be able to do better. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So those were the two things I had. I am actually returning to Saskatchewan tomorrow for a couple of weeks, but I intend to participate as much as I can. We're close to the end of this phase of this project, so, yeah. I think that's everything, unless anybody else had anything for council reports. Business outstanding, seeing none. Are there any notice of motions anybody would like to put on the floor? No. Are there any public online that would like to ask questions about the meeting? Any, go ahead, please. Go to the mic. Any of them? Oh, yeah, okay. Ms.
Thanks, Mayor and
Vazquez, please.
Council. I just wanted to, because of the conversation a few minutes ago around March 13th and 14th and Heritage, to let you know there is another thing on March 13th too. Northern BC Tourism, Fran is planning, with Krista is planning a full day workshop from 9 to 4 on March
Oh.
13th on crisis communication. So that will be going out to all of our tourism businesses, trying to catch them before the season starts. And, you know, hoping we get participation. Hasn't actually been made public yet. That'll be going out probably tomorrow or the next day.
All right now.
Yeah. right. So it was top of mind when you were having your conversation. So I just wanted to let you know that was
Good.
in the books as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there is a closed council meeting, so I need a resolution to move into a closed meeting pursuant to section 91A of the community charter. Moved by Counselor Sol, second by Counselor Roper. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, we will move into a closed meeting. Okay, thank you, everybody. We are finished with the in-camera portion of tonight's council meeting. We are back into the regular regional council meeting. And there is a report coming out of that meeting. And so if the Director of Corporate Services would like to read that report. Thank you.
That Councillor Leslie Dickey per Division 6 of the Community Charter, effective January 29th, 2025, is on a mandatory leave of absence of council. And subsequently, that there will be no alternate assigned to the Environmental Advisory Committee. That Councillor Brenda Enax is appointed to the Fort Nelson Public Library Association, moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Roper, carried. That there will be no second alternate assigned to the Municipal Insurance Association of BC. That the council alternate assigned to Northern Development Initiative Trust Northeast Regional Advisory Committee will be Councillor John Roper, moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Souls, carried unanimously. And that Mayor Fraser be appointed as the council representative to the Poplar Hills Golf and Country Club Society, moved by Councillor Enax, seconded by Councillor Roper, carried unanimously. And that the mayor assigns Councillor Kyle Andrews with the recreation portfolio and Councillor Brenda Enax with the education portfolio.
Thank you very much for that. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.